This is how I taught my dog to do this thing. First, I started at a much lower height. I lured her onto the sofa and then I crouched down. With my left hand, I lured her onto my back. At this stage, I only cared about the front 2 feet. I then released her and threw a kibble so she had to jump over me. For the next stage, I added a little bit of distance. This encouraged the back 2 feet to get onto my back as well. I fed her on my back and then I released her. Next, I made it harder by facing away from her and luring her onto my back. This wasn't clean, but we continued at this stage until it was. It was at this point I added the verbal cue, up. Next, we added more height and I went back to going sideways. Again, I only cared about the front 2 feet. Every time I make one aspect harder, I make the other aspects easier. Following the same pattern from before, I've added a bit of distance and this encourages the back 2 feet to get on your back as well. Side note, I'm releasing her onto a carpet. Don't practice this on slippy floors. Next, I've moved on to luring her onto my back whilst facing away from her. And now I've stopped using a gesture and I just use a verbal cue.
Good.
Now we move back to the sofa. This is a nice way of gradually increasing the height she needs to jump. I've also gone back to luring. She quickly got that, so I faded the gesture and just use a verbal cue. Another side note, wear a thick jumper without a hood so that it doesn't hurt as much. And finally we upgraded to her jumping from the floor. And now we're working on her doing things while she's up there. Currently it's just a down, but next she'll be changing light bulbs.